Greetings and welcome to this important meeting on the draft Genito 288 Special Focus Area Plan and draft River City Sportsplex Master Plan. Gloria and I both welcome each of you, also those of you who are joining us online with Facebook Live. Together, we represent the county government side in the Clover Hill District. She is chairwoman of the Planning Commission, and I as vice chairman of the Board of Supervisors. Also on the dais with us tonight is Jesse Smith, Deputy County Administrator for Community Development. Welcome, Jesse. First, let me say thank you. Thanks to each of you and the 1,200 of you or so who participated in our online survey back in August. Staff has received that input and worked to incorporate it into tonight's draft presentations. Tonight is therefore phase 2 of our ongoing public conversation, and so we're looking forward to your questions and feedback tonight. And don't be shy, we're in the tree of trust here, each of you in the public meeting room, and then only thousands of our closest friends on Facebook Live. So don't be shy, please ask questions at the end. It's also important, and I want to acknowledge even before we begin, the exceptionally hard work of staff up front tonight. And so putting together these plans, we have our Director Gillies of Planning, along with all of his team, as well as our Director of Parks and Recreation, Bob Smet, and all of his team. So I just want to acknowledge the really, really hard work that has already gone into incorporating all of this information into 2 plans tonight. It's very important. And we're going to continue, of course, to include public feedback as we move forward. So I do want to emphasize that this process remains open. We are having broad conversations with members of the public, sports tourism industry professionals, Richmond Region Tourism, and representatives of potential investors. And when we think about the increasing importance of sports tourism to Chesterfield, which is over $41 million annually, we are all focused on this topic like a laser. But everyone in this room has done something connected to sports tourism at one point or another, if you think about it. It might be going to a professional sports team event. It might be attending a professional game or college games or going with your kids to a tournament. It is a $323 billion, with a B, dollar global industry and growing. Chesterfield and its citizens and families via River City and the RVA volleyball complex and other venues yet to come, and some other small venues that still exist, are beneficiaries of that revenue. And with that revenue, we can and do plow those dollars back into the county to improve Chesterfield County for every single person. Conversations continue, as they will tonight, about what mix of projects offer the best public utility, the best return on investment, the best quality of life for the old Southside Speedway site. Full disclosure, I will be traveling at my own expense, and I need to say that in the modern political environment, with Richmond Region Tourism in December to something called the U.S. Sports Congress Sports Tourism Summit in Frisco, Texas. This event brings together sports tourism professionals from around the country to educate and develop relationships, and should be educational. It's my hope that the trip will at least lend some assistance to this ongoing conversation we're continuing tonight. And at this time, I will pass the microphone over to my esteemed colleague, Gloria Freye.
Thank you, Mr. Winslow. I'm very much appreciative of everyone in the room and everyone that's listening in. I, too, thank the staff for their work and their vision in developing these plans, both for the master plan for the parks and for the special focus area. I'm excited about these plans. I'm excited to share these ideas with the public. I see this as a first step in possibly transforming this section of Genito Road. So I'm excited to be here. I'm happy to listen to all the comments and take those into consideration as we move forward with this proposed plan. Thanks.
And now we'll hear from Jesse Smith.
Thanks, Chris. Just a couple of logistics and housekeeping items. So as you walked in, if you're here in person, you should have received a note card. So if you have questions, we do ask that you write as legibly as you can to help us out. We will take all of those at the conclusion of the presentation and do our best to read them and then try to answer those. For those of you that are on Facebook, we will monitor those comments, again, the best that we can, and also read those and try to answer those all at the end of the presentation. Restrooms are back out towards the rear if you need those for some reason, and water fountain is back there as well. We have a couple of short presentations. We do ask that you let folks get through those. So we will start with Stuart Connick from our Parks and Recreation Department.
Good evening. My name is Stuart Connick. I'm Assistant Director with Parks and Recreation. And it's my pleasure to share with you tonight our vision and draft master plan for River City Sports Complex. So let's start on what we have there now. You can't know where you're going until you look and see what you have. On the screen, you'll see the master plan. And what we've covered up is, in yellow, are the areas that we can develop. It's not all of the 115 acres we have yet to develop. There's some areas that we cannot because of water quality and wetlands. So those can only be restricted type of development. So you can see we've developed a good portion, but we have a little bit more to go. What do we have there now? We have 12 lighted synthetic fields, 2 restroom concessions, one at the front and one at the rear of the site, almost 1,500 cars parking, and the ability to overflow in part of the Dominion transmission. We have 2 ways to get into the complex. One is off Genito Road, and then the other signalized at Oak Lake, and you can come in the rear entrance. But also we need to talk about what's happening here now as far as activity. That's just facilities. And a master plan is about facilities, but ultimately is about what you can do there. This last year we had over 500,000 people visit this site. We're really proud that 300,000 of those were our own local citizens coming out there with their kids or on their own to use the facilities. Through our tournament program, we had about another 200,000 visitors. We've already talked about economic impact, and this one facility is 24 of those $41 million that come into the county. It's a great location. The people that developed it before were right on that, with about 70% of the population is with a 20-minute drive of this site. So it's a great place for us to do additional development. So I'll start with the master plan. And like any plan, we follow guidance on how we go forward with developing the site. This particular one is backed with 3 plans. We have a sports tourism plan that's given us guidance on the tournament facilities. We have a public facility plan that talks about facilities we should develop, as well as our Parks and Recreation Master Plan, which gets down into the fine detail of what type of activities should occur. We think this plan addresses all of those stakeholders, the participants, whether they're day or tournament users, the event organizers, and our own department for operational and maintenance concerns. 2 primary goals: maximize the available land space for recreational activities, and then just as important, maximize the experience you have as a visitor coming to this site. 3 objectives that come out of those goals. One is maximizing athletics. The second is providing quality amenities for those people that participate in athletics. And then the third is new, and it's a major focus of our master plan, which is increasing recreational diversity. And so we're looking to make this more than just a sports complex. So you'll see on here the major new additions is in the back. We'll be building out. We have 3 fields. We'll be adding 4 more. So we'll have a total of 16 lighted facilities. We'll be taking one of the existing ones right here, Field 10, and turning that into a 3,500-seat stadium. We'll come down in the new activity area here and develop a 15 to 20,000 square foot multi-purpose building. Can be used to support tournaments, can be a rental facility, indoor activities like archery. We have a huge program. We need to bring that indoors. Wrestling, pickleball, anything you can do in a multi-purpose building. And then throughout the facility, adding those amenities that make your stay more pleasant. And I'll go into more detail on how that's going to go forward. And just so you know, not just on facilities, what we're doing right now, we're in the last final phase of 4 more fields, and we will be replacing all of the turf on all of the 12 fields. We'll have brand new state-of-the-art turf for everybody to use. We are really proud. We just added an electronic messaging sign at the Genito entrance so we can welcome our visitors and let people know what's going on. And we'll be starting some of the preliminary engineering design on the stadium. So we're already moving forward on this. So let's talk about okay. I don't have to erase each one. I love that. Let's go to the next slide, and let's look at the front 9 in a little bit more detail. So here, Goal 1, athletics. We already have 9 fields. There's no room for any more. But what we do have a concern with is Field 9 was set up for just football. So the plan says let's enlarge that so we can accommodate soccer, field hockey, and lacrosse as well. And that just adds more place for people to use. It was a little bit limiting as we scheduled our people out there. Whoa. There we go. Sorry. Novice up here. Okay, got it. That's the main change athletic-wise. The second objective is amenities for athletic participation. And there are a number of those that we had. If you've ever been out there, there's no shade. One of the biggest things is shade structures. So all these little blue things would be shade structures that would work for participants, overhang the field for players and coaches, as well as those visiting. And we have those at each one of the fields. If you've been out there before, we have our one restroom concession down towards the front. We're going to add another restroom so we can get rid of porta potties and have regular toilet facilities for everybody to use. Then between Field 9 and 6 is a hillside. It's really sort of a maintenance hazard right now. What we're going to do is take that and grade it into a terrace. And so you'll be able to be informal seating for what happens on Field 9 or 6 or that front of the complex, as well as we have a lot of our tournament goers. They come as a team. They bring team tents. It would be a place for them to set up, and so they can be right in the action and watch what's going on. Over on this side is our overflow parking. It's limited in bad weather, so this plan recommends that we harden the grass surface so that you can park at any time. The next slide just gives you some examples of what that could be. Shows you the shade structure. Information kiosk is one thing that's missing. We're going to have electronic kiosk throughout the site. This lets you know what's going on the events you're there, have a place to view programming that the department offers. It'll also be a place for event organizers as well as people to take ads and meet the 500,000 people that come here. Down here shows you a picture, sort of what it could look like on the terrace seating. So we think this would be a great add to the front. So let's move to the back of the site. And here we have 3 fields right now, right here. We'll be adding 4 more, and then we'll be adding additional parking, our maintenance facility to the back, which will open up some more parking in the front. So this will complete the athletic piece. And then we'll add the same amenities that we talked about in the front with shade structures, information kiosk, to make it better usable for the public that comes here. Then we have a couple of examples of what that could look like. The maintenance complex, being it'll be back a shop, but it'll still be visible, would be a nice looking structure. This will be for event operations, daily maintenance. The site has gotten so large with this master plan, we need an on-site presence. Then one part that it's really not a facility, but it's an activity that will be accommodated here is our therapeutic recreation program. These are folks with disabilities. They need firm, stable surfaces. They need large areas. They like to shoot the bow. They like to play ball just like anybody else. So we've set up a particular place that's going to have additional handicap parking, places for vans, so our programs can work here. Then
Stuart, let me just say, I don't mean to stop you, but
Certainly, sir.
that's great. I just want to say that I'm really glad that that's been worked in here, because we have a lot of folks in the county who will make use of that. And in fact, I received an email this evening on the way here from someone who said, make sure that's part of what we do there. So y'all are really spot on here.
I think when you hear the discussion on the comments that we received from the public on the site, we were really heartened because there's a lot of things that were asked for that actually we had programmed into this plan. So we felt like we were really in sync with what people were looking for. The real interesting piece, or I guess the signature piece in the back, is we're taking Field 10 and turning it into a small stadium. 3,500 seating, L-shape. And the whole idea, and here's some pictures, these are not what it's going to actually look like, but just to give you an idea, sort of a big stadium feel in a small stadium. We want it to be a quality experience for the spectators that come there, quality experience for the kids that play. And this could be used for the tournaments that we already have as our championship game. We're looking at this, that we could vie for high school, lacrosse, soccer, and field hockey, regional playoffs or state championships. We also see there could be a market with Division II and Division III and showcase athletic events. So we really see it'd be a great place. It'll have the seating, additional restroom, concession facilities, public announcer, press box, digital display board, scoreboard, as well as we'll be doing a lighting upgrade. So it'll be top class, but small seating capacity. We think it'll be a great addition. So now we're going to finish, and it really ties into what you just said with the central part. And this is where we leave the athletic realm and we go to the community recreation. This is where we have planned a very large destination playground, have splash pad, have very interactive play equipment, tall climbing nets, zip lines, and then to continue on the disabled, a large portion of this will be a universal playground. And what this is not just for kids with disabilities. It's a playground for kids with disabilities to play right side by side with those with abilities. They get to watch each other. They get social interaction. It's going to be a great facility. Nothing like it in the Richmond metro region that I know of. So that's our grand vision. And then we're not leaving the adults out. Over here, we'll have outdoor fitness equipment for adults, as well as a rubberized training track, not a competition track, but training track. Inside that will be a large open play area, a place you don't have to reserve. It's not for sports, it's just to do whatever you want. Fly a kite, come out and set up your badminton, do that as part of the picnic area we have here. And then to keep your stay really good, the multipurpose building, we envision having a rooftop observation deck. And we would like to have food service with that. So you could come out here, play, eat, watch your nephew play ball, watch your kids on the playground, and yourself, you could go over and use the fitness area yourself. And here's just a couple of illustrations of what that could look like. Splash pad is not a pool. It's essentially what it is. It's just devices that get you wet. And then all of the types of play equipment that we were talking about. Then the last piece of the plan is we return back to the existing restroom concession, and restrooms are always at a maximum. You talk about getting 10,000 people out here, so we're going to change some of the functions in there that were more administrative. All of those will be moved to the back in the maintenance shop and add more restrooms right up here where people need it. And then we said, what can we do? We had those yellow areas that we're developing in, then we had the environmental areas. What we can do is through all of that area is put in a 2.5-kilometer running trail. So we can have, that'd be a nice training facility. You can run it twice and do 5Ks. We can have events. A lot of folks do those for fundraisers. Here will be the place to do it. It also has the length to be work for middle school and high schoolers for cross-country as well. So with that concludes the presentation, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Stuart, and you can tell that there's a lot of work went into that. So again, this is a draft plan, and we'll take questions at the end on that in addition to this next plan we're about to hear. But this is great work, I mean, really great work.
We're very excited about it. We can't wait to get started on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the next presentation is going to be from Joanne Weworka from our planning department. She will present the draft Genito 288 special focus area plan. So I did want to reiterate that this is a draft. There's no decisions being made tonight, but we did want to put out there the comments we've received. And again, to reiterate Chris's earlier statement, thank you all for that. And again, thank you all for attending, and I will pass it along to Joanne, and she will go over the draft plan.
Thank you, and good evening. So as Mr. Smith mentioned, earlier this year, the county embarked on a special focus area plan for the area around River City Sportsplex, which we just heard the master plan, the draft master plan presentation on, and really kind of focused at the intersection of Genito Road and 288. So a special focus area plan is a long-range plan that provides detailed development guidance to areas undergoing or having a high potential for change. And these plans really try to address strategies for the redevelopment of key properties through detailed design guidelines and placemaking strategies that address the unique characteristics of the area and meet the community's vision for the future of the area. So the Genito 288 Special Focus Area Plan includes both River City Sportsplex and the Southside Speedway site. As was just presented, River City Sportsplex is a parks and recreation destination for Chesterfield residents, as well as a major tourist draw for the county and for the region. So through the special focus area plan process, the county has an opportunity to get out ahead of redevelopment and establish a strategy that builds off the success and draw of River City Sportsplex. The county solicited community input through an online comment portal during the August-September months to gather input and ideas from the community on the future of the area. During this period, we received over 1,100 comments and responses received. And the following slides are going to go over and present a summary of the responses that we received. So first, we really wanted to highlight where our respondents came from. So of that almost 1,200 comments we received, most of those responses came from individuals who live within Chesterfield County. And most of those responses within Chesterfield County were in the zip codes immediately surrounding the site. It is also kind of important to note that we also did receive almost 100 comments and responses from outside of Chesterfield, but within the Richmond and Petersburg region, as well as 67 responses from other parts of Virginia and 20 from out of state. So we got a lot of interest in this.
They count too. We'll take the 20 out of state.
That's right, but a lot of interest in this area, so just wanted to highlight that. So one of the first questions we asked people were what uses they thought would be desirable for the Southside Speedway site and the immediate area. So our special focus area, as was presented on that first slide, that map, is the broader general area. From the comments, the most comments that we received were relative to parks, recreation, and entertainment uses that really play off of River City Sportsplex. So again, we saw some comments relating to the expansion of River City Sportsplex, the adaptive playground, and looking at opportunities for all to play within the area, the incorporation of walking and biking trails, things like pickleball and disc golf, as well as the entertainment and kind of experiential uses and things like venue for concerts or sports and other entertainment options, things to do within the area. We also heard from a lot of folks the desire to keep Southside Speedway and to have that remain as a racetrack and a speedway in the future. We also heard commercial, retail, and restaurant places for people to go when they're in the area that serve River City Sportsplex and the community, with a focus on local and small businesses, and the potential for a hotel to serve the area as well. And lastly, we received comments from the community on other public facilities or schools within the area. The second question we asked was regarding what uses the community thought were non-desirable for within this area. Of the comments we received, these were the top comments that we heard. So we heard residential. I think that was really tied with a concern of schools and public facilities capacities within the area. More commercial uses, and there's a lot of additional commentary with that surrounding kind of the traditional suburban style commercial development, as well as auto-oriented uses, so things like gas stations and repair shops. And self-storage, surprisingly, got a high number of some very specific comments related to that individual use. There was also some concern over the expansion of kind of fields and Parks and Rec encroaching outside of the River City footprint, as well as the expansion of industrial within the area, and then also kind of a double negative here, but any removal of Southside Speedway as a racetrack.
Hey, Joanne, just real quick, I just got a text message. We are aware that we're having some difficulties with Facebook Live. So if you're watching from home, just wanted to remind folks they could also watch live on YouTube, Comcast channel 98 and Verizon channel 28. I think it's coming through on Facebook, but it's a little glitchy, to use a technical term. So did want to let folks know we have other options. The YouTube live stream is typically easy to get to. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we asked any area improvements that people thought would be useful and improve upon the area. Overwhelmingly, we heard about transportation comments and specifically related to access off of 288 at Genito Road, as well as beautification of the area and things like streetscaping and landscaping throughout that corridor, because as you know, the study area kind of has that long stretch along Genito Road. And then in general, incorporating walking and biking connections throughout the whole plan geography. So now I'm going to move on to the draft land use plan. Again, this is a conceptual draft based on the input that was received so far, existing conditions within the area, and development trends. We have developed this conceptual draft land use for the area. This draft land use plan places emphasis on enhancing and maximizing the experience of visitors and county residents that visit or use River City Sportsplex, as well as those who live in the surrounding area. So I'll go through some of these big categories that we have here and attempt to draw. So we have the conservation recreation focused here at River City Sportsplex. That's going to continue to remain that viable use. We have that supported through the land use plan. This kind of gray area outlined here around Oak Lake is the general business category, again supporting the Oak Lake Business Park, continued use in that kind of surrounding little bit of land that's left for development. We have our corporate office and research and development and light industrial tracks, which we have highlighted here in blue. Those are really our kind of employment-focused uses. So again, the corporate office, as it's said, in the light industrial, that we feel provides a nice transition to the surrounding development around that. As well as commercial and entertainment uses focused in this kind of central area of the corridor. That really kind of support the River City Sportsplex and the surrounding community. And I'll talk a little bit more about what some of those commercial uses and entertainment uses could be. And then lastly, we have the medium high density area over here, which for the purposes of our comp plan provides a transition from some of the more intense uses over in the kind of Oak Lake area and the commercial area towards the existing residential neighborhoods. And again, that category is capped at 4 to 8 units an acre. So we're not talking about extremely high density with that. So moving into the commercial uses that I highlighted on the previous slide, the special focus area, again, as I mentioned, will help guide redevelopment within this area to ensure that future uses are complementary to River City Sportsplex and the surrounding community. So right now, there really isn't much for people to do when they come to River City, and we want people to continue coming to the area and coming to the park to have things to do in the area. Really think about places for people to be able to grab a bite to eat after a game, or places for them to stay. There's really a lot of potential within this area to build off of that success at River City and some of those things that we saw in the draft master plan that would come in the future, and help keep some of those tourist dollars from people who are visiting their area within Chesterfield County and within this area, especially if we can highlight and focus, on, I'll go, wrong one. But if we can, highlight on connectivity back in between River City and those surrounding kind of commercial uses, would help eliminate, traffic and cars getting back out onto Genito Road and traveling to other parts of the county, but really trying to capture that within this area. So as we're talking about these kind of River City supportive commercial uses, this could include things like restaurants and small-scale retail, entertainment and experiential uses, so things that people do and activities, wellness uses that kind of play off of the sports theme of the area, and even the potential for a smaller scale hotel to serve those visiting the Sportsplex. The images on these slides, this slide and the following slide, show some examples of similar development surrounding recreational uses that really try to incorporate some public amenities and spaces for the general public and community as well into their development patterns that we think would be a nice fit for the area as well as for River City. And finally, incorporating racing history into the area. No matter what uses occur in the area, we want to ensure that the racetrack's history be honored and incorporated into any potential redevelopment. We want to try and find ways to recognize the racers of Southside Speedway in the future, whether that be Wendell Scott, the first African-American stock car driver, or the many others that have raced at Southside Speedway during its time of operation. Okay, so our next steps, the plan ultimately will help, once drafted and completed, will help guide the future development in the area. So through meetings like the one tonight, we're hoping to develop a shared vision with the community that will enhance the area for all county residents and visitors. So based on the input that was received at this evening tonight, staff will work to develop and refine recommendations for the special focus area plan. And once a draft is developed, there will be additional community review and input. So including the public hearing processes at the Chesterfield County Planning Commission, as well as the Board of Supervisors. So we'll continue to keep those interested, informed about the progress of the special focus area through our contact list, as well as through the county's many social media channels, as well as through the news media. So thank you for your time this evening, and I'll turn things back over to you, Mr. Winslow.
Thank you, and well done. Really well done. Appreciate all the work. I know you went through each and every one of these comments received, for instance, and prepared all of this data for us. So I'm very grateful for that, Joanne. Thank you. And I think Gloria and I both are somewhat responsible for at least this draft, is because we did ask staff last year to take a look at this area and see how it could be brought together. There's a lot of different uses here. You have the quarry across the road. You have Oak Lake Business Park, River City Sportsplex, the lake development on the other side across from Clover Hill High School, neighborhoods, long-standing neighborhoods of Chesterfield County, Southside Speedway. There's a lot of things happening, Mid-Atlantic Steel and the buildings going up over there. So we really thought, we really should try to bring this area together in a way that will let citizens and visitors of Chesterfield know that this is a family-oriented area for recreation and for their benefit. And visually, through pedestrian and other improvements, we want to do that. Obviously, there's others as well, like architecture and all of this. So we're at a very high level, but even this high level is very much welcome, and I appreciate planning's work on this. Very well done. And I think we're essentially at the point now where we can start taking questions and hopefully providing some answers. We do have some staff available to give you more detailed answers to questions as we go along.
So we do have a couple of questions that came across through I believe the Facebook Live portals. So we'll start with those. We have folks collecting the note cards, and we will grab those and go through those as well. So, Rachel, maybe if you want to, yeah, I'll grab them, and we'll try to do this live the best we can. So bear with me as we try to read through some of these. We gave you tiny pencils to make it hard. So the first question that came through the portal is, will the stadium accommodate track and field and football? So I will let Stuart field that one, if you don't mind, Stuart.
Yeah, the stadium is set up as a sports stadium for any sport you could play on a rectangular field. So it would accommodate football, soccer, lacrosse, field hockey, or other sports that could be accommodated in that space. We currently do not have a track around it. We were working within the existing footprint of the field in the back.
Thanks, Stuart. Another comment from the portal, looks like a great plan. Will there be an on-off ramp both ways from Genito to 288? So I will field that one.
I'll add to it.
So the county's comprehensive plan does include a proposed interchange at 288 and Genito. We certainly feel like that's an important part of the infrastructure. With that said, there are certainly some hoops to jump through at both the state and federal level to provide that improvement. So, Mr. Winslow, I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Well, this is something I've been after for years, those of you who have followed this exit ramp, and I do want to say that because of the good work of Ms. Freye on the Planning Commission and the cooperation of our developer of the lake, we've been able to set aside in perpetuity the land for the ramp there, at least from 288 south on to Genito. And there may be other connectivity in the future, but at least we got the ball rolling on that front. So now it comes down to getting the permissions that we need and funding this ramp, which is going to be very important, I think, for anything that ends up getting developed along this area as an enhancement to what we already have there. So I appreciate the work of transportation staff getting this set up for us.
Okay, well, that's the last one we got through the portal, so we've got a lot of note cards. I'm going to try to sort through these and read them the best that I can, but please bear with me as we kind of go through these. So this one is about, could you not replace field 15 with as many as 36 to 60 pickleball courts, I think is the question, and advocating for more pickleball. So, Stuart, I will kick that one over to you again. I know there's a lot of support for pickleball within the county. Maybe you could speak to the facilities that we do have and whether or not there's any plans to expand them at this particular venue.
Certainly, when we looked at what should go in River City, we looked at the entire list. We purposely decided to stay with the rectangular sports and let this facility do that really well. I think we certainly have other opportunities within the county to provide pickleball courts. We have 26 pickleball courts, or 28, I think, right now. More than half of them, or I guess all of them, are lighted now. So we have quite a bit. That's a long way in 10 years when we had 0. And we have the potential to add some more at some of our parks, as well as I know we've talked with the pickleball community about some place for a tournament facility. They mentioned in at least 24 courts. We certainly have that ability at Rockwood Park. to consider that. There is some undeveloped land, and we've shared that, as well as Daniel Park. Both of those allow for that potential. And either one of them are well-positioned as far as geography, close to roads to bring in tournaments and have support facilities. So that's our current thinking.
Hey, Stuart, if you don't mind, so this question is about the need for additional hotels or restaurants in the vicinity of the Sportsplex, and some concern over, do we really need additional restaurants and hotels? Could you speak to that need to the degree that you understand it from your background with at the Sportsplex?
Well, certainly when most of our tournament folks are coming in from out of town, they would like to be as close to the facility as possible. The way the hotels are set up in Chesterfield, they're not a whole lot close to this facility, so having something there would be an added bonus for the tournament users. We work with all of the restaurants in the area when they know a tournament's coming in and when the times are, but we hear from a lot of folks, we really like to stay close. We like to walk, if possible, from the complex and eat and sort of just spend the day there. So that certainly would be an advantage to have those kind of facilities for what we do on tournaments as well as our everyday users.
Stuart, thank you. I'm going to ask our Director of Economic Development if we know what our bleed rate is to other jurisdictions from River City Sportsplex. In other words, how many people aren't we capturing in Chesterfield County with heads on beds and heads on beds and restaurants and this sort of statistic?
We don't have a leakage report. We haven't run a leakage there. We haven't spent the money to do so. What I will tell you is we do not have the majority of the hotels in the county. The largest group of hotels are in Henrico, followed by the city, and then Chesterfield. It's the goal in sports tourism to get the people who visit to spend their money in the community, in the county. So additional hotel rooms, additional restaurants, and additional opportunities for other entertainment venues, as well as retail opportunities are what our goal is from economic development standpoint, from sports tourism. That would be the goal. The closer we can have those facilities where they could be walkable or with a small drive, the better, in the fact that it will enhance the experience of the people visiting and going there. When we purchased the fields, we really entered into the theme park business. So you've got to enhance the experience every year. You've got to make it better. And the strategic plan that Parks and Recs have to do the improvements is wonderful. And it is following that belief that we have to give a better experience each time. We need to additionally do that in the area with additional opportunities for people to enjoy other things.
And so that's a good answer. I wanted to ask also, just in relation to the question on 288, do we know to what degree the ramp and transportation on and off 288 will enhance our efforts at sports tourism here?
We don't have a quantitative answer to that. We have a qualitative answer to that. We had a discussion earlier about how, in both directions, if you're on Powhite, if you're going north on Powhite, you have to go all the way down to Courthouse, come back, and then come back down Genito. If you're south on Powhite, you go to Woodlake and come across and get onto Genito and come. So there's no real direct route. It is our belief that a full interchange there will greatly enhance the opportunity to have bigger and larger tournament facilities and events. And generally, in our research for that interchange, it's also convenient to the Brandon Mill community and the Woodlake community to use that interchange versus going down to the Hull Street interchange or back up to the Powhite. It'll stop some of that congestion we're experiencing now as people go out to work and come back home.
Well said, and I agree.
Garrett, if you don't mind, so there is a question about, why did the county, through the Economic Development Authority, purchase the property? Mm-hmm. Would you mind explaining kind of the role of the EDA?
Sure.
Yes, yeah, particular to the racetrack Speedway
Yeah,
property. Can you
absolutely.
just explain a little bit?
Absolutely.
The background on that?
No, it's really very simple here. At the request of the Board of Supervisors, the EDA entered into negotiations with the entity that had a contract on the property. And we did so to preserve the property from being divided up into uses, many of which were the ones that people said they didn't want to see, like mini storage and gasoline. We did that to prevent the property from being divided up and into those uses while this process was going on. So we did it to preserve the property through this process. It is the goal of the EDA to put on this piece of property whatever the Board of Supervisors decides is the highest and best use, with always the goal of economic development is to enhance the tax base and create jobs.
And of course, we have to, as public officials, also keep in mind that there is a balancing act to this, and that is that citizens at River City Sportsplex get to use that facility, 5 days a week. And so whatever we do here needs to be viewed through that balance as well. But I think, with sports tourism, generally speaking, we can always make the argument that at the end of the day, it certainly benefits John Q. taxpayer by having funds stay here in Chesterfield as opposed to going up to Richmond or Henrico or wherever. So I appreciate you answering this question.
No, we've been working on talent attraction lately as an area where we need to really do research. And it becomes very clear that the things that make a community great for its citizens are parks and rec and opportunities for entertainment and restaurants and venues. It also makes it a great place for tourists to visit. It also makes it a great place for employees to come, and therefore also makes it a great place for businesses to come. They're all tied together. It's one big circle. So as we look at enhancing sports tourism, we're also enhancing the quality of life of the citizens that work here and attracting more talent to live here so that we can have more jobs.
If you don't mind, there's always the question on what, is the county developing the property itself? Can you kind of explain how the EDA handles that, maybe,
Sure.
i.e. Stonebridge?
Sure, yeah. Stonebridge or Meadowville. The EDA is traditionally what I call a horizontal developer. We will put in infrastructure and make a piece of property viable for commercial use, and then we will sell it to the development community and they will develop it. In the instance of the Richmond Volleyball Club and the Chester Arts Center, in order to make those facilities operational and as best they could be, as well as Mr. Winslow has created, as well as allowing us to have some use of that of the public, not just for tourists. We actually did develop those buildings and act as a landlord on those. But I anticipate in this case that we will be more of the horizontal developer and allow another party to develop the site.
Thanks, Garrett.
Sure.
There's a lot of Speedway questions here, as you guys can imagine, so I'm trying to get through the handful of these first on the Parks and Rec, and then we'll certainly filter through these, so just bear with us for a second. So there's a question on the projected budget for this project, and I'm assuming that means the parks improvements. Maybe, Stuart, do you guys have a ballpark idea of what that would be in terms of cost to improve the fields and provide those other amenities?
Yes, sir. As part of the master plan process, we worked with a multidisciplinary engineering, architecture, landscape architecture team. One of their tasks was to give us a ballpark for everything you saw on the master plan, doing everything that we talked about. It's a $48 million endeavor.
Do you have a projected time frame? I mean, what are you thinking in terms of when that be, or is that still dependent on some of the CI capital improvement planning
It's really part of the capital improvement program. We have, as part of our this year's request, put in several projects that we think would be important to advance that master plan. So that's still in with budget, determining where that'll go. So it's really a funding stream We can do some of the smaller improvements out of our regular budget, but the larger ones, facilities cost a good bit of money, need to come through the CIP.
There's also a question on the number of visitors. I think we said it's about 300,000 to the park. Any idea how that is calculated? There's just some question on how do you come up with that number? Maybe if you could answer that. I know you've heard that one before.
Now, we have vehicle counters out there, and so we monitor every vehicle that comes in. We just assume generally about two people per, and so that comes up with just the general visitation. Certainly on the tournaments, we get a little bit better number on those because we have participant numbers, and so those are thrown in. Sort of the general use comes with the car counts. Then the tournaments, we have a much better number based on those people that show up for it. And as I said, we're about 500,000, but 300,000 are local, about 200,000 are a part of the tournament process.
So if you ever try to go to the Flying Pig during a tournament weekend, it's always a crowded, hard to get a seat, I'll say that. So, let's see. Okay, yep, thanks. So there's a question about can they get the printout of the slides of the PowerPoint? Yeah, we will, if you need a printout, we will certainly provide you with one. We will also post all of these to our website. We will make all those as available as people want them in whatever format is convenient to you. Will there be other meetings to talk about the Sportsplex additions or changes? There will be future meetings. Obviously, there's some next steps in all of this. As Stuart alluded to, that it's always dependent on funding, so there will be future meetings to discuss that and also cover kind of that time frame. Sure, Stuart.
Just so everyone would know, the department works with their Parks and Recreation Advisory Commission. They meet once a month. And that is the forum for folks. I do a regular report on the progress of projects, and you can come before that to have any discussion, and we'd love to get your feedback. We presented this plan to the PRAC Commission in September, or 1st of October. And so they can come at that time. They're virtual, but you can come on and have your say, and we'd love to get your comments.
We've got one, I guess, through Facebook. Is there any intentionality to have a significant portion of Chesterfield resident-owned businesses as partners for the mixed-use facilities? As this is a EDA-owned parcel, it would be great contingency to keep the revenues local. I will say that there's always a preference for county-owned businesses, whether it's through county government operations or through the Economic Development Authority. So I think the answer to that is certainly a resounding yes.
And if you're interested, I think reach out, call our economic development department and just, let somebody know that's an interest for you and your business, because I think we'd want to know that information and put that in the mix.
Got one more. So I think this is going to kind of get into the Speedway questions, which, as you guys can see, is a fairly large stack. So I'll certainly do my best to get through these and not try to repeat anything that's completely a duplicate. So again, just thanks for sticking through this, and please bear with us.
And we'd be remiss if we didn't note that we have a large Southside Speedway presence tonight. So I want to say thank you for being here, and we'll get into these questions now. Thank you, Jesse.
Can we hear from Mr. O'Neill?
What we're doing is taking questions and answers on every type of use that could be on site.
We've heard lots from Parks and Rec, but we haven't heard anything.
And sir, so what we're going to do now is take those questions. I appreciate the comment.
Yeah, so I will go through these. So first one is, aren't you concerned that this emphasis on the Sportsplex could build opposition to its use, promotion or expansion, if it is at the expense of Southside Speedway? Just based on the current master plan, the expansion at the Sportsplex is really confined to the property there, so that the two aren't directly related. Certainly understand the concerns over the Speedway itself, and there's a whole slew of other questions on that, so we will certainly get to those. But I think it is important to notice that to note that the Sportsplex itself, that property is wholly separate from the old Speedway property. Question about providing verbal comments and whether or not there would be an openness on the board's part to informal discussions with parties that might be interested in leasing or operating the Speedway.
Yeah, so just to bring everybody up to speed, Mr. O'Neill was gracious enough to take me down to Langley Speedway so that I could see firsthand a racetrack that was, I think, running at 100%, if you will, and doing a good job down there, and I'm appreciative of that. This is an open dialogue. It's anybody that wants to have a discussion regarding saving the track, absolutely open to that, and we can set that up with Mr. O'Neill. What I would say is just as I would say to any party that wants to place something here, whether that be a new track or some other type of venue that's been listed and named in some of these comments we've received, is that we're going to be looking at this again through the lens of public utility, the lens of return on investment. And so those parties who are interested in getting something done, need to approach and reach out to us sooner rather than later, and have this not drag out 6 and 12 months. I think we want to be intentional about getting a direction in place, and so that means that if those folks who have financing for plans or have plans and have plans to finance, we want to hear about what those are. But to date, I've not seen anything like that with regard to the saving of the Speedway in any sort of a detailed form. Now, that's not to say it's not forthcoming. I'm told it is. So, but to be completely transparent, that's where we are in those discussions. And any discussion on any other venue would be put through the same lens. And so I want to be very clear about that and open to those discussions as well.
In terms of allowing verbal comments, we're trying to get through as many of these as we can, as quickly as we can, just to be respectful of people's time tonight. We certainly appreciate everybody coming out. We will get through all of these, and then again, I'm certainly happy to hang out as long as you guys want, and try to answer questions the best we can. I'm not going to speak for the other folks up here on the dais, but
I will hang out.
So it just makes it easier as opposed to have everybody come up, and that just takes time and more time. But we will certainly hang out and answer questions as long as we can. Okay. This is more of a comment, and it's really, somebody who's a Clover Hill District resident says that they personally don't have any real use for the Sportsplex as it is. They do have an interest in the Speedway continued to operate. As a small business owner, they've been greatly impacted by the closure of the Speedway itself. Where do their interests come into play? They feel like they're not being considered. I think the goal of tonight's meeting and all the input we've had so far really is to consider all of those folks, and again, getting approximately 1,200 comments and going through each of them individually. We are certainly here to listen, and again, there's no decisions being made tonight. So, Chris, I don't know if you want to expand on that.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, particularly during the pandemic, you put the pandemic on top of it. If you have a business that is, dependent on the Speedway, and you add the pandemic on top of that, I'm sure things aren't great. So, I certainly want to be appropriately empathetic there. It's been a tough time for a lot of small businesses, and so we, happy to have those discussions as well offline, for sure.
So this one is, has anyone from Chesterfield talked to the city of Hampton? Langley Speedway was going through a similar scenario, and the city of Hampton partnered with them. Mr. Winslow addressed that a few minutes ago, but I don't know if you want to speak to that.
I actually talked to the mayor of Hampton for a little while, and so it was good to see the locality working together with Langley to, as a partner to keep that place running. But I think that the way that they described it, their deal, they gave them a year or so of tax revenue, and then they, because they had, I think, a year or so, maybe a year and a half off, is my recollection, Lynn, and I'm trying to remember, and I'm looking at you in the back there. But I think they had a year and a half where they weren't running races. The city of Hampton came in, offered them a tax incentive package, just, didn't take their taxes for a year and a half, and I think that offered them the opportunity to sort of get themselves back on their feet. And so, as I said, as I was there, it was a full track that night, and certainly a lot of dedicated fans in attendance and enjoyed it.
Again, more of a comment. Are you aware that Wendell Scott raced at Southside Speedway? Yes, absolutely. I think that was actually part of the presentation as well. Is the Southside Speedway property going to be allowed to continue as a racetrack? So there's actually 4 questions on this one. So if it's okay, I'll try to go through these one at a time. So is it going to be allowed to continue as a racetrack? From a land use and zoning perspective, there's nothing that would prevent that. I know I've read some things, online that say it was only allowed to be this particular family or that particular family. The property is zoned C5. It's a permitted use there, so there was some other zoning that they had relative to, I think it was like farmers markets and some other things that would have been limited to that, the family that previously owned the track itself. But from a local government zoning perspective, there's nothing that would prevent a racetrack there. And then number 2 is what is preventing its continued use as a racetrack. While I can't certainly speak for the family that owned it, I know just from reading some of the stories that, just like Mr. Winslow said, it was hard during a pandemic. I obviously am not a racetrack operator, but I know that they did struggle through that and eventually decided that it was time to sell. So I don't know if you had other conversations.
No, I think just anecdotally, a lot of folks have come up and said they had questions about how the track had been operated for a number of years. I don't know how many, but a number of years, I think, is a fair statement. And so, I don't want to be disparaging of how it was run, because I'm not in that business either. You don't want me running a racetrack. I can run a law office. I can't run a racetrack. And so, but with that said, I think there's certainly been some market forces at work in the last couple of years that may or may not, make this viable any longer. I just don't know the answer to that.
Sure. Are there noise restrictions associated with the track, and did the track lose its grandfather noise restrictions? Yeah, none of that really was applicable. Again, the track was allowed to operate. The zoning on it is really, really old, other than the things that they changed. So from a county perspective, that really was not an issue. There is a question about how much will it cost to remove some of the contaminated soil on the site. I don't know if we have any of that information. Garrett's heading towards the bike, so I'll see if he can answer that one.
We did a Phase 1 ESA and a Phase 2 ESA in some places. There really isn't that much contamination whatsoever. Not anything to worry about. There are wetlands that we discovered that cannot be used, and there's some unconsolidated soil where they had piled dirt that's not exactly compactable in a place, but we did not find anything that said there was large plumes of biofuels moving through the site whatsoever, so we don't have any concerns about cleaning it up.
That's good.
And just so that you understand the acronyms too, ESA is Environmental Site Assessment. They did both a Phase 1 and a more detailed Phase 2, and it doesn't appear there's anything significant, i.e. race fuel.
That's correct.
Okay, this one's in all caps, so it may take me a second. Since the Speedway cost 1/10 of the River City Sportsplex, it has 7 times the return on investment. Why doesn't the county make the track work like they do the other parks in the county? Certainly I can't speak to the return on investment on the racetrack. Again, I think there's still some discussions to be had. I can't really just speak to what the profit of a racetrack would be. I don't know if that came up in any of your discussions.
No, and that's something that we're absolutely interested in receiving. If a group is coming forward this is the type of industry-specific data we will need. And so to the extent that that's what, something that you have, please present it at the time that you do so. Again, contact Economic Development, because that's something we'd be interested in knowing and understanding what is the ROI with this type of facility in 2021. I don't know the answer to that.
And this question really is very similar. Has a feasibility study been conducted on the positive impacts of reopening Southside Speedway and its growth potential? Again, I think we would certainly be welcome if anyone has any information relative to that, reach out to any of us or Mr. Hart at Economic Development, and be happy to work through that. More of a comment, you can honor past drivers at Southside history by keeping it open. Fair comment. And bringing it up to date. So, again, this is a comment. Put on the news all channels where you could vote to keep Southside Speedway. Some did not have the knowledge or opportunity to vote, and they indicate that it's unfair. And there's, I think I read it backwards. Local sponsors want to sponsor local cars, expensive to attend races at Dominion and Shenandoah. We need our home track. Denny Hamlin cut his teeth there. I'll throw it. I'm a Manchester High School grad as well. Little before Denny, but and NASCAR racers have enjoyed charity racers there. Again, just a plea to keep the racetrack.
And certainly Mr. Hamlin and other folks who came up through Southside, who are interested in operating the track, we're absolutely open to having those conversations. I don't think to date, if I'm not mistaken, and I want to confirm that, we have not heard from Mr. Hamlin's group any specifics about wanting to keep this track open. Is that correct?
We have talked to Mr. Hamlin's operation, his business agent, on 3 separate occasions where they are expressing some interest possibly, but not necessarily in the track development itself. But we have opened the conversations with them about, but they have not put forward any proposal.
And I don't want to state it incorrectly. Have you received any proposal from any group to date?
No, sir.
I haven't seen it, but I know sometimes.
We're working with Mr. O'Neill, and we're in conversations with Mr. Hamlin's agent. Probably about once a month we're talking to him about, and we're having those open conversations and continue to plan to have them.
Thank you.
Is there a private counsel to speak about preparations to the existing racetrack property? And in addition, can someone help discuss operational needs if it were to remain a racing facility? Again, I think this kind of goes back to we are not racetrack operators, nor do I think you want your local government operating a racetrack. So I'm not sure we can really answer those questions, but we will get as educated as we can on those particular topics. Since Southside Speedway is desired by many, how is the county going to incorporate that into the master plan? And how much is the park going to cost? I think we gave the ballpark estimate on the cost of the park improvements, recognizing that has not been programmed at this point, but will be up for future consideration. And then I think, as Mr. Winslow said, there is an openness to have those discussions should there be a desire to maintain the Speedway, but to date have not had anything that we can wrap our hands around. Again, save Southside Speedway. Talk to Mr. O'Neill. I think Mr. Winslow has done that, and certainly we're all welcome to additional conversations. If the county has no immediate plans for the Speedway property, why not lease the facility to a promoter with, I think it's a 10-year lease, to run it as a racetrack and subsidize the leaser to make improvements to hold other venues there. I think Mr. Winslow spoke to that a little bit relative to the Langley Speedway and how they did it. I don't know if you want to add anything.
No, I mean, again, these are the sort of details that really just need to be hashed out with a group that comes forward, again, with a plan of operation and a financing plan or suggestions for financing. I know that our economic development team will be open and willing to hear those proposals, but, you know, again, we just want to push that along to the extent that we can, and it's feasible to do so.
So this is a parks question, so I somehow this snuck in there. Why is it the county using the 109 acres donated for parks going to be used for parks and recreation uses? Not sort of 109 acre. Not sure I understand that one. So maybe if this is your question and we didn't cover it, if you want to grab one of us afterwards, we'll try to gain a little more clarity on that. Why can't we keep Southside as a racetrack and run? I think it says a weekly NASCAR racing series and use it as a multi-use racetrack during the week. Could Southside Speedway's track be used as a track for running when not being used as a race car track on Friday nights? Okay, so could it be used? Is there a possibility to run a NASCAR series, and could it be used as I guess more of a actual people running track? You know, again, it's hard for us to answer the possibility of whether it could support a NASCAR series or whether NASCAR would even, you know, put a series on it's a 3rd-mile track, right? So, you know, again, certainly if that's someone is willing to push, we're willing to have those conversations. I don't know that it would be a good fit as a track for other folks. You know, again, it's been a while since I've been out there, but it's probably would be better suited if you're going to run laps, do it at the North. And Stuart's nodding his head over at the nearby Clever Hill High School track or one of the other tracks that are specifically made for running. So I think we covered that one. I'll cover it again just because I don't want anyone to feel like we're skipping a question. Why has Parks and Rec not put a plan together to accommodate both the racetrack and the square fields? And again, the improvements to the Sportsplex are separate and distinct from even the Southside Speedway property. History of Speedway, could there be a museum to dedicate it to previous drivers or history of Southside Speedway? We have discussed that idea, and whether or not there's a way to you know, have a small facility that could have a history, you know, some sort of gift shop, and take that into play. If folks are interested in that, you know, we would certainly be happy to have those conversations as well.
I mean, that's really, it's critical, I think, that whatever we do, we ensure that we're honoring the history of the track here. And I know it's meaningful to a lot of people because y'all are here tonight, and I hear from you all the time. So we want to do that, and that's sincere. And so however we do that, we're going to do it and make sure it's meaningful for everyone.
There are 100+ people here in support of developing Southside Speedway as a racetrack development. And again, I did want to say thank you guys again. We do a lot of these meetings, and we'll have 5 or 10 people show up, so I think it's fantastic that everyone is here tonight advocating you know, for what you want. When will there be a meeting that citizens are allowed to speak? Again, we'll get through all these and have those conversations. And then this is a little more detailed. Combined comments from the public who wanted parks, people who wanted Sportsplex, entertainment, recreation, comments supporting a racetrack were 42%. We're happy to go through any of those details that you want. We could go through, again, Joanne did a great job of going through every individual comment and trying to categorize it the best she could. But it's similar to try to get comments off of these note cards. She tried to put them in the best buckets that she could. And again, if anybody wants to go through those in detail, we are happy to do that. Is the county willing to keep Southside open for racing? I feel like that's been covered. I mean, if folks have, you know, the wherewithal to do that and the abilities and knowledge that, you know, let's have those conversations. Is there any plan to beautify the development already on Genito Road, i.e. the Genito Industrial Park with buffers or other greenery? This is one that hits close to home for Chris, so I will let Mr. Winslow answer that question.
No, and I think both Gloria and I actually feel very strongly that the length of this strip on Genito really should have street trees, should have a nice promenade, pedestrian path, street lights. perhaps some sort of tasteful associated decor that lets you know that you're in this area. And so, yeah, the look and feel of this is very, very important to us. And so if you have suggestions about what that should or could look like, happy to hear those too. But yes, very, very important.
And I think this is the last question. Oh yeah, we got some up here. We'll cover this too. There are local Chesterfield businesses that receive clients, shoppers, et cetera, through sponsorship. And it is a tax write-off for them. It does them more good to invest in cars at the Speedway, which currently they cannot. Other tracks do not benefit small businesses. Very fair, and certainly kudos to those folks that have sponsored cars in the past. I know it is certainly not a cheap endeavor. I'm going to try to read these. Just a couple questions on here. I got a question about creating new restaurants when there are local ones already struggling, and who's going to work these jobs. I think that's a national problem relative to labor and folks that are willing to work service jobs, partially due to the pandemic, as well as folks finding other avenues. The plan here is certainly not just for restaurants, but what we've heard from the input on residents is that they would like to have some other dining options in that area, particularly folks that are visiting the Sportsplex, but also folks in nearby neighborhoods along Genito Road. Universally, I think we hear that people want more dining choices other than fast food and chain restaurants.
Well, we certainly do in Clover Hill. We don't have a whole lot of restaurants in the district, and so anytime we do get a new one, it's exciting news for us. I think, again, these new restaurants closer in will have a much better chance of capturing revenue from our visitors, and that's something that Mr. Hart addressed. So I think that's something we've got to keep in mind, and I don't think we can plan this plan 20 years from now based on, the pandemic, hopefully, and I say, cross my fingers, but hopefully in 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, we're not uttering that word every single day. So I do think we have to have a long-range vision that goes beyond this sort of national labor shortage that we're all experiencing right now, and no matter what your business is or what restaurant you go to, or you try to get a service for anything right now, it's challenging. It can be challenging. So.
The last one, it looks like, is the county aware of the cost to save the Speedway and the fact that multiple people have come forward and offered to do the work to save the Speedway at cost? It will not cost nearly the amount the county thinks it will to save the racetrack. Again, if there are folks that are interested in that, certainly, I don't think we've talked to them to date, but we're here. So
again, I'm not aware of a formal offer for people to come forward and work to get the Speedway back up at cost, and I just haven't seen that. And maybe Mr. Hart, you have. But I know that there was an auction where a lot of things were sold off at the Speedway. And so certainly some of those things would have to come back, I presume, to get the operations back in order. And I would assume be some associated costs with that. Again, these are conversations that I'm happy to have and happy to talk to people after this meeting or in conjunction with Mr. Hart's Department of Economic Development. Do we have any other questions from the Facebook page? I just want to do a final check before we close out tonight. We're about 10 minutes prior to 8 o'clock here. But I want to say thank you to everyone who came. I will be here after this meeting, and we'll talk to anyone who wants to talk to me about any proposal that you have. It looks like we may have one question coming. Thank you. I see it's making its way down. Thank you.
So this is what will the overall total cost of the entire project? Will it cost the taxpayers money? If so, how much? I'm assuming that this is referencing the Sportsplex improvements, and I think we gave that number earlier. And that's, again, there's nothing programmed at this point, so just like any other project with the county, it's going to have to compete for, it's going to have to compete with other projects for funds, so. Yes, sir, yeah. So, Stuart, 48 million, is that correct? So, you're correct, sir, yes, sir. I think there's some concern the county is willing to financially aid the ball fields, but is county willing to equally aid the racetrack financially? Again, I think that's all part and parcel to discussions, and you know, if folks want to chat about that, we are certainly happy to do that. We got one more. What is Chesterfield Auto Parts status? Is it staying or going away? Garrett's going to chat about that a little bit.
As reported in the Observer and in BizSense, we're in conversations with the owner of Chesterfield Auto Parts about the future of that site and what he wants to do with it, and then how we might relocate that business possibly, or whether it stays there. But we're in what I would call friendly conversations about what to do there.
So there's a question about where can citizens send comments to. What we'll do is we will post on our social media pages as well as our website a similar portal, just like we did last time, where 1,200 folks were able to enter comments. We will provide all of these slides, and again, another portal for comments if folks want to submit them. Likewise, you can certainly talk to us. I'll give anybody my email address. It's smithjw@chesterfield.gov. You can email me anytime, and certainly we're happy to take those and push those out to the.
Looks like you have one last question.
Yeah, we're getting close to 8 o'clock, so we'll wrap this one up for the formal presentation. But again, stick around to chat with folks as long as they would like. 109 acres at 5450 Courthouse Road, 5 miles from Southside Speedway. So this is the Atkins parcel, and Stuart, do you want to speak to what we have planned at that particular site? Thank you for the follow-up, by the way, whoever did that.
Yes, the Atkins property was one we received by donation from the Atkins family. They specifically wanted it to be in open space. So we do have general plans for that, which would be sort of a community park, a little bit of everybody, maybe some ball fields, picnicking, court games. About 2/3 of it, at the request of the landowner, we were going to keep in undeveloped area, only trails. So it's not a lot of development potential there. We were able to receive by donation another 11 acres from Mr. Sowers. So we're over about 120 acres there that gives us good access. There is a sign on courthouse that says future home. As part of the CIP, we have made a request to get funding to put a small parking lot and develop some trails on the property so people can be using it until such time that we need to develop additional facilities.
So is it fair to say that the wishes of the person that donated mostly were to keep that as an undeveloped park, so to speak?
Yes, they acknowledged we needed some development, so we made a compromise, and about 1/3 of it would be developed and the other 1/3 would be undeveloped, but allow trails so people could appreciate the natural beauty.
Again, I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up. Thank you for those on Facebook Live who've joined us. And again, please submit your comments, suggestions, thoughts. My email address is winslowc@chesterfield.gov. And Gloria?
And mine is Freye, Freyeg, @chesterfield.gov.
And honestly, it's been a good discussion. Thank you very much, and we look forward to continuing this conversation. Thank you so much.